came across this video by a guy named Ashley Keaton who says he's got 10 questions for atheists. Sure, you know I'm up for it. I'll bite. Go ahead. But you notice that most of these religious questioners are downright ignorant when it comes not only to atheism, but to reality. They betray their abject ignorance and just make fools of themselves. So it's no wonder that people spend so much time laughing at the religious. But hey, I'm willing to give Ashley a chance to prove me wrong. Let's see what you got, Mr. Keaton.
Yo, what's up everybody? This is your boy, Ashley Keaton. And I've got 10 questions for atheists.
And as an atheist, hey, I'd be more than happy to answer your 10 questions, Ashley. So please, get to your first question.
I'm going to give a shout out to the friendly atheist, Hemeta. I'm sorry if I said that wrong. It wasn't disrespectful. You can call me the friendly Christian.
To be honest, I really don't care if you're friendly. I care if you're rational. I care if you've got a grasp on reality. You think that's the case? Hate to say it, but I'm not exactly holding my breath.
The Bible says to first be friendly. If you want to gain friends, show yourself friendly. You must first show yourself friendly. I'm screwing this up, sorry. I just made a video and it didn't record, so I have to do this again. So I'm trying to do it faster and better because obviously it was God that it didn't work the first time.
So you think God screwed up your video? Sure. Gotcha. Tell me another one.
Shout out to Barney and friends for keeping my head in those books and on those ABCs, cleaning up at the end of the day. I want to thank, God for allowing Reading Rainbow. Reading Rainbow. That was terrible. Let me do it again. Reading Rainbow, yes.
And I'm sure LeVar Burton is grateful for the shout out. Not sure if God had a damn thing to do with it, but okay.
I want to thank God for them sidewalks for keeping me out the streets.
Where exactly did you get the idea that God is out there putting down sidewalks? See, this is where religion gets really nutty. When people think God is responsible for absolutely everything. God didn't make sidewalks. People did. God didn't make Reading Rainbow. People did. Maybe you ought to think the right people.
Anyways, we've got 10 questions. These are not 10 questions to stump atheists, but it might happen. Who knows?
I do, and they won't. I'm sure they'll be just as absurd as every other question theists ask atheists that just leave atheists shaking their heads at how ridiculously idiotic the question is. But hey, let's see. I could be wrong.
That's not my goal. I'm the friendly Christian. Remember that. Ashley Keaton, the friendly Christian.
So you say, but that doesn't necessarily make it true. I'd much rather you be the intelligent Christian, but if you were, you wouldn't be a Christian, would you? And I never said I was a friendly atheist. That's somebody else's shtick.
On the ones and twos. These questions are just meant for discussion purposes. I really want to understand because I've asked certain questions and I just haven't gotten a response, so I figured let me just write them all down and broadcast them. So that way people can try to diss me if they want to. Fine, make your response videos so that way we can get a clear understanding of the perception of atheists on these different topics.
Now, I'll make a prediction here before even hearing any of his questions, but I'll bet that most of these have been asked and answered before many, many times. And I really find it hard to believe that a lot of the common questions keep getting asked because the responses have been everywhere. But again, hey, I could be wrong. Let's see.
Well, let's get into it. How do you feel about the way animals are handled in factories? Do you feel like it's immoral? And I'm not talking about objective morality because most atheists that I've talked to don't believe in that. But they just believe that society comes together and forms their own morals. So Hitler's society was cool. But not trying to get on you guys, but I have to say certain things so I can make a logical point.
What exactly does that have to do with atheism? I mean, if these are questions for atheists, shouldn't they have something to do with atheism? Otherwise, it's like you're asking what an atheist's favorite color is. Who cares? But to answer your question, I can't answer your question. It's just too vague. You need to be more specific as to what things you're talking about, because there are some things I might oppose and some I might not. And the Hitler jab, that's not friendly, and it's also ridiculous. I doubt you'd find any atheists out there who think morality actually works that way. This is not a good start, Ashley.
Number 2, how do you feel about eating a chicken sandwich? Might sound crazy. Maybe you didn't catch it. First question, how do you feel about the way they handle those animals in the factories? So if you feel like it's a problem, and then you eat a chicken sandwich, that's just me kind of seeing, okay, are we really as moral as we say we are? Do we really know morality? Because we feel like, oh, it's terrible what they do to those animals. I can't watch it. I can't see it. Oh, it just kills me. But we're not vegan. We should all be vegan if we find problems with that in an atheist perspective. Because Christians, we sacrificing lambs, you know what I'm saying? So we really don't have a problem with that as much.
I feel just fine about it. In fact, I just had a roast beef sandwich and it tasted great. Don't tell me this is going to be a bunch of animal rights nonsense asked of atheists for no reason whatsoever, because that's doubly annoying.
Is religion wrong? And I don't mean like, are we wrong about religion? Are we immoral? Are we evil? Is religion, not we, I don't believe in religion. Is religion evil? Is belief in God evil?
Is religion wrong? Well, even though you said this isn't what you mean, yes, religion is wrong in the sense that it is factually incorrect based on all the evidence that we have. But are you immoral? That would depend on the religion and the specific beliefs and specific practices. Because for some, I would say yes, and for others, I'd say no. Is belief in a god or gods evil? No. Is it stupid? Yes. I don't care if it makes you feel good. I care if it's intellectually and evidentially defensible. And I think we all know it's not.
Is it even possible to be evil? Does evil even exist? Where does an objective wrong come from? Where does evil come from? Is that really a thing?
There's no such thing as objective evil or objective wrong or objective anything when it comes to morality. Morality, all morality, even your morality, is subjective. It always has been, it always will be. In fact, claims of objective morality are just intellectually lazy. It's an attempt to lay out facts that have not been demonstrated, simply because it's too difficult or time-consuming to actually argue for your personal position. So you invent an authority, and then you demand that authority is right, without ever having demonstrated it so.
You, as an atheist, have morals. Sometimes your morals can be better than the so-called Christians. Where do you get those morals from? Like I said, this isn't to stump the atheist. I really want to hear some responses on these questions.
Enlightened self-interest, same as everyone else. We want to be treated a certain way, therefore we treat others that way in hopes that those actions will be reciprocated. And that's the foundation of all morality. Unfortunately, many people then pile on the God says so nonsense on top of it as a means of forcing people to act in a way that's often not really moral. Modern radical Muslims are a good example of this. Enlightened self-interest doesn't include racism or sexism or religious discrimination, but Islam does, at least for the latter two. But now they put this Allah says so on top of morality so they can engage in tribal war. Eliminate Islam, and you've eliminated any rational reason to behave as they do. Religion is the problem, and Christianity is not immune.
Do you think it's wise for someone to speak about a thing as being ridiculous if we don't know for sure? Just because it sounds crazy. Alright, prime example, God. the spaghetti monster, evolution, macroevolution. You tell someone that I came from a monkey, my ancestors are monkeys, I'm going to say that's the dumbest thing I've ever heard. But is it illogical for me to make that kind of statement? Because I don't know. Now I'm sitting here mocking the fact that somebody has a picture of an ape on their fireplace, and that was Aunt Sally. But I'm mocking that. Is that wrong? Or is that immoral to you personally? Because there's no objective morality, so you can't say it's wrong, but you can say personally to me it's wrong. We really can't say anything is evil or immoral. I mean, do morals even exist? It's just opinions, really, I think. But I don't know. But these things have to be addressed in order to gain knowledge. I'm sorry, that was Timothy Jenkins III coming out of me a little bit. Let me just stop.
Absolutely, because we don't know very many things for sure. Absolute certainty is rarely even possible for a great many things. Therefore, we need to talk about the likelihood of any particular belief or position and accept things provisionally that are the best supported. Now, he lists a couple of things here. He says God and the flying spaghetti monster, both of which are completely unsupported claims that ought to be rejected as irrational, at least until objectively verifiable evidence for them is presented. And then he says evolution, which is the best supported scientific theory in all of the biological sciences. And nobody tells you that you come from a monkey except for religious morons who don't understand evolution. It just proves you've got no clue what you're talking about. Maybe that's why you have an imaginary friend. I don't know. But it just makes you look like an idiot. And of course, none of that has anything to do with morality. It has to do with scientific and demonstrable fact. Strange you don't know the difference.
Can science really disprove the supernatural? Can it? Is that possible? Supernatural is anything that's outside of science. So, can we use logical statements? Are we limiting ourselves to just logic and science? Is it possible to break logical rules?
Well, you'd have to define what the supernatural is in the first place, which no one has ever done. They can only explain what it's not. They can never explain what it is. They can never present a single example of the supernatural for scientific study. And the same goes for things like magic. Define what it is. Define how it works. Define how the hell you know it's even there. Produce a single demonstrable example of magic that science can objectively examine. If you can't do so, then science, indeed rational people, have no obligation to take any of your unsupported and unevidenced claims seriously. And we return to the last question. We have to decide, based on evidence, what claims are best supported and what claims are not. And we reject the claims that are not, and we accept the ones that are, at least provisionally. That's how science and rationality works. Why are you not aware of this?
Is there such thing as an evil person? And on what basis?
You seem to be asking the same questions over and over, just phrased a little differently. This has already been answered. Evil is subjective. I can certainly decide for myself if I think a certain person is evil or a certain action is evil or a certain belief is evil. And that's up to me and my own discernment. But does that make that person, action, or belief evil for everyone? No. Now, the majority of people within a particular society might agree that a certain person, action, or belief is evil or wrong, and therefore put that person in prison or pass laws against an act or whatever. That's actually how morality across cultures works. It's also why morality across cultures changes over time, which I'm sure scares you, but that's simply reality.
Where did the concept of God come from? Where did that idea come from? Because I'm a person that believes every lie comes from a certain amount of truth. I don't think you can get a lie without first having the truth. Spider-Man comes from a spider and a man put together. If you don't have a spider, there's no way you can even imagine a Spider-Man. So that's my point in stating that. Just to be clear, I believe that if you have a supernatural idea, then it has to come from something that at one point was supernatural. Even if I'm exaggerating it to be Superman or Green Lantern or whatever, I feel like it has to come from, first of all, something that was supernatural in the beginning, even if it wasn't that extreme.
Ignorance. The answer is ignorance. Primitive man knew nothing about the world around them. They didn't know what caused the sun to shine or the plants to grow or the storms to come out and wipe them out. So they ascribed it to gods and sought to appease these imaginary gods so they would send the rains and keep the storms at bay. And that's where religion came from, the desire to appease these gods from punishing mankind. And that's where the clergy came from, people who took it upon themselves to tell people how to act. And that's where sin came from, the belief that if the rains didn't come, then man was somehow being punished for imaginary crimes against imaginary deities. This has continued to this day. Christianity is no different than those primitive humans hiding in caves, praying to their gods that their fires wouldn't go out. That's kind of sad, isn't it?
And last question. People have probably heard this before, but I just haven't really got a direct answer for it. What evidence would you need in order to believe in God? What evidence? Because if you see something, you're probably going to say, that's a hallucination. I'm hallucinating. So is it even possible for you to believe in God with any evidence that you can even think of? Is that even possible? You really have to understand, are you really limiting yourself?
As I've said many times before, I'd need direct, objectively verifiable evidence of some kind that your God actually exists in the real world. Bad, easily debunked philosophical arguments, they're not going to cut it. Unproven claims in the Bible, those aren't going to cut it either. It's got to be something objective. It has to have nothing to do with faith. Hell, have your God start spelling out Bible verses in the stars, something that everyone on the planet can see, something that science can prove. That would go a long way to proving that there must be something to this Christianity stuff. You got any of that? Yeah, I didn't think so.
That's just me talking, just my question, something I thought about. I've been looking at a couple debates and things like that. I've been piecing stuff together, and I just kind of wrote this stuff while I was in the car, just these questions that I have on my mind from time to time as I talk to atheists or people.
Jeez, dude, turn down the music. I can't even hear what you're saying. Do you actually watch these videos before you upload them?
So, yeah. And as always, this is Ashley Keaton, and enjoy the process. I am out.
I'm sorry, but I can't say I enjoyed the process because a lot of these questions made no sense. I mean, you talk about animal cruelty, which has nothing at all to do with atheism. Then you admit that Christians and Jews before them sacrificed animals to their imaginary friends. So what does any of that have to do with atheism? Then you display your absurd ignorance over evolution, which I always find absolutely laughable when the religious make themselves look like complete idiots like that. And you think anyone with an education is going to take you at all seriously. I mean, come on, Ashley. You have to be able to do better. Even if this is your second time through the video, maybe you should have stopped after the first time and rethought what you were asking, because the vast majority of it is just ridiculous. And unfortunately, that's not much of a surprise, is it?
Everything changes.